important site and its future, along with our other important site here in Adams County, Jefferson College. These two sites are going to provide insights of national and international events and significance that shaped our city, state, and region. Before we get started, before I introduce Mississippi Department of Archives and History Director Katie Blunt, I'd like to recognize a few people that are out in the audience with us today. First and foremost, our mayor here in Natchez, Mississippi, Mr. Dan Gibson. Devin Heath, the executive director of Visit Natchez, along with some of his staff. We have some very other important people as well, too. Mr. Carter Burns, who serves as the executive director of the Historic Natchez Foundation, and also is a board member for the Mississippi Department of Archives and History. Mr. Pat Dickland, who also serves as the chairman of the board for the Historic Natchez Foundation. Representatives of the Natchez National Historical Park, Ms. Kathleen Bond and Mr. David Slay. We also have some important people here that are representative of the early beginnings of the Grand Village. Many of you may not know that the state of Mississippi acquired the site in 1971 and worked for about 5 years to create the visitor center that you see here today. One of those early important people that was involved with that was Senator Marion Smith, as well as Mr. Walter Brown, who you served in the House of Representatives at the time, correct? Let's give them a round of applause for the early work that they did to establish this important historic site. Of course, they would not have been able to do their important work up in Jackson if it were not for the efforts of some other very well-minded citizens here in Natchez and Adams County. Miss Grace McNeil gave the original donation of property that compromises the Mound site here. And two of her daughters are with us today, Miss Beth Bogus and Miss Ann McNeil. We're so grateful for Miss Grace's generosity in the past. It really, truly was visionary at the time. We also want to recognize Everett Truly and his daughters who are here with us today as well, Miss Ethel and Miss Sarah. Thank y'all so much for being with us. Everett led the efforts to get a group of community members together to acquire additional property here at the site that ultimately became part of the 128 acres here at the Grand Village. And so we're excited about the future based largely upon the work that these important individuals did. So thank y'all for being with us. I'm also going to recognize real quick, we have many of our staff from the Mississippi Department of Archives and History here from Jackson, as well as the local people here in Natchez that work. I'm so thankful to all of our staff members that are working on this project. I'm looking forward to the work that we're going to be doing in the future. I also want to recognize my predecessor who's walking up right now, Mr. Jim Barnett. Jim took care of this place for 33 years. Is that right, Jim? Wow. And really expanded it in a variety of different ways. And I know he's going to be looking forward to the future of the site as well, too. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our director, Ms. Katie Blunt. She's going to share many of the individual parts of our exciting vision for Natchez and Adams County with you. And again, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Lance. Lance thinks it's hot and steamy because he's wearing a suit and tie. I think it's beautiful, and I'm so happy to be here. I always love being at Grand Village. I always love being in Natchez, and I've been spending a lot of time here lately because since we opened the Museum of Mississippi History and the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum in Jackson in 2017, the Department of Archives and History has had a very, very strong focus on Natchez. So I'm down here all the time, and I see Alderwoman Valencia Hall standing there, a former board member of ours. Get to see her a lot more than I used to, and I'm thrilled about that. So we have two sites here. The site where we sit today, the Grand Village of the Natchez Indians, which Lance talked a little bit about. At this site, we plan to construct a new museum. This building has served us well since the 1970s, but it is way too small for the events that we have here and the crowds that come here, and the exhibits are out of date. So we will work with our community advisors and our tribal partners and develop brand new exhibits for a brand new building at the Grand Village of the Natchez Indians. This is, as Lance said, a highly significant site, a National Historic Landmark, and we envision a visitor experience here that is worthy of this site and worthy of the complex, rich, interesting, and important stories that are told here. At Historic Jefferson College, our other site in Natchez, a few miles up the road, we plan to establish well, first we'll restore the buildings there. We have a collection of 8 historic buildings. And then we are going to establish an interpretive center there that takes a broad look at the history of this region, which is as significant as any history in the country. I mean, if you think about the stories that are told in Natchez from the experience of the Native American people who were here first to the early conflicts among the colonial powers and the Native Americans, westward expansion, the territorial period, statehood, cotton and slavery, one of the most important stories in American history, and no better place to tell it here. Civil War, Reconstruction, the stories that we will tell at Historic Jefferson College in Grand Village with the Natchez Indians are central to the story of American history. And we think there's no better place to tell them than Natchez. We think Jefferson College can be a gateway to Natchez, bringing people in and then sending them out to see the places where history happened. We also plan to establish a historic preservation field school at Jefferson College. We will house students there who will have hands-on training from experts from around the country in learning preservation trades. In that work and everything we do, we are working very closely with our partners at the National Park Service. The stories that we tell at our sites are very closely connected with the stories the National Park Service tells at their sites, and we're going to work very closely in developing these connected sites. I want to thank all of our partners, the Park Service, Visit Natchez, we'll hear from Devin in a minute, the city, the county, the Historic Natchez Foundation, and of course our tribal partners. All of you and our many friends, many of whom here who have long and close connections to this site, all of you are so important to the work that we're doing here, and we're so grateful to you for coming here today to hear the announcement. I have buried the lead. The Mississippi legislature has provided $8 million for these projects in Natchez. Very, very generous. I really commend them for their vision, and I thank them for their generosity. I just want to call a few names. Appropriations chairs Senator Briggs Hobson and Representative John Reed. Our wonderful Natchez delegation, Representative Robert Johnson, Sam Mims, Becky Curry, Senator Melanie Sojourner. I also want to thank Governor Tate Reeves, Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann, and Speaker Philip Gunn. They share a vision for Mississippi with all of us and with the Department of Archives and History, which is that we can elevate our already strong tourism economy, especially in a place like Natchez, by telling our stories in new and exciting ways, by telling a broader story than we have in the past, and by reaching new audiences. They believe this. They believe in the importance of developing our heritage tourism sites around the state. They believe in the importance of marketing those sites, and they have put their money into this project, $8 million, which will allow us to begin the process. We'll start at Grand Village, contracting with an architect and exhibit firm to begin the intensive planning for this site. So I am so grateful to the legislature. I'm grateful to all of our friends here in the audience. And I am so honored to introduce my dear friend and a great advocate for Natchez and for the projects that I've talked about, Mayor Dan Gibson. Can you say a word? I know you want to get up here in the shade.
Oh, Katie, we're so excited. We're so excited. And wow, it does I may have to speak a little longer than anticipated. It feels good out of here. No, I'm not going to do that because today is just truly a day to celebrate, and I want the spotlight to be on Grand Village, Jefferson College, and the leadership of Katie Blunt and her team, because without them, today would not be possible. So grateful for you. Katie, sometimes I just have to pause and think, what did I do to deserve this? To be mayor at such a time as this, working with people such as this. Truly, it is a dream come true for me because I can remember so many years ago as a kid, myself a kid, coming here to Natchez and discovering this place when I was a kid, and also discovering so much about the history of this region when I was just a child, falling in love with the river, falling in love with the history of everything from the old trace, the sunken roadways in our area, the amazing oaks, the vistas along the river, here at this Grand Village. And also, yes, as a child, I was entranced by Jefferson College. And to this day, the trail here and the trail at Jefferson College are among my favorite to explore. And so, yes, what did I do to deserve to be here at such a time as this in the history of Natchez, serving with great people? And two of those great people are here, our aldermen, Alderwoman Valencia Hall, Alderman Ben Davis. We have a dream team. When I look around and I see Kathleen Bond from the Park Service, and I see, Carter, Pat, representing our historic Natchez Foundation. When I look at leaders like Marion Smith and Walter Brown, who went before us to make this possible, and then to be here, Lance, you've done such a great job here at this Grand Village. When I look at Devon and the partnership we have with Visit Natchez, and when I look at our new Director of Workforce Development, Tawana Williams. Tawana, I know you're excited about this workforce opportunity coming to Jefferson College. When I look at the team that keeps the grounds beautiful, keeps the vision alive, and we're moving forward in so many ways, let me just say, it is a great time for all of us. What have we done to be so blessed to be in Natchez at this time? And I also want to give thanks to those families who have been mentioned today for your contribution and for that of your parents. Thank you so much, Ethel, Anna, Beth, Sarah. We just really want to recognize that this didn't happen overnight, but it truly is something that has been at work, well, since I was a kid. And so I'm going to just say this. I share the enthusiasm that is expressed so well by our own director, Katie Blunt, when she says the history of Mississippi really is centered here. We are the oldest city on the river. We are the oldest municipality in the state of Mississippi. And we also are on ground that is truly sacred, because before we were here, and long before the French established this settlement in 1716, the Natchez were here. And I am so grateful that we now have a flag called our Unity flag that portrays all aspects of our community, starting with the Natchez. And we have that Native American center and most visible on our city seal. And then we celebrate the accomplishments of all who have come, from the French to the Spanish to the British to, yes, the American, but so much to be given and so much credit to be given to the African American who actually built Natchez in so many ways, and without whom and without the significant contributions of their forebears, we would not be here today. It's exciting that we can celebrate this event today and then roll right into a Juneteenth celebration next week. and a day of unity that we will celebrate a week from today on the Bluff, the Natchez Day of Unity. And we invite everyone to come to that event on June 14th at 5:30 p.m. at the grandstand. Let me just say, so many people to thank. And Katie, today we thank you. And we pledge to you our continued support, not only our enthusiastic support, but our financial support. And we as a community are going to rally to do more, because this benefits us and it tells our story, and it is also so important for the future. But I also want to say, any trip I have to make to Washington, any more trips we have to make to Jackson, anything else that our legislative consultants need to do to help you and to help us and to help this effort, we are here for you. May God bless all of you. May God bless Natchez. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor. I made a trip to Washington very recently talking about Grand Village of the Natchez Indians and Jefferson College. So we are seeking funding from other sources too. And thank you so much for your generous pledge and for your strong leadership of this important historic community, and for your friendship. And now I am very pleased to introduce another dear friend and another strong leader for Natchez, Devin Heath.
Sorry, I had to move that up just a little bit. Good morning.
Good morning.
On behalf of the Visit Natchez Board of Commissioners and staff, I'm excited to bring greetings and to extend our congratulations, as well as our thanks. 58 years ago, this site here was designated a National Historic Landmark. And just up the road, 6 years later, Jefferson College joined the ranks. We've learned and have so much more to learn from these sites, from the history of the people that were here before us. And the funds provided will enable us to share it more ardently with the world. Natchez is a world-class destination. We have visitors from all 50 states, from all different countries across the globe. And the history of Natchez is so deep. It can be unexpected. Sometimes it can be painful, but it is profoundly American. We're dedicated to telling the whole story of Natchez and all of our history. And that doesn't just begin 300 years ago. It began much earlier than that. The Natchez inhabited this land long before Columbus sailed the ocean blue. And we're still exploring and experiencing their culture. As expansion grew west, Natchez again became a central focal point. Jefferson College was a site where statehood was established, where the first institution of higher learning in the state of Mississippi was born, and where a Freedmen's Bureau for former slaves was established. And then later as a military prep college. We are so thrilled to be able to tell that story, and through the funding that is being provided, as well as additional funding that the mayor and Katie have both spoken about, we are really looking forward to the ability to tell that story more robustly. And we're so thankful to Governor Tate Reeves, Lieutenant Governor Hoseman, the state legislature, and all of the individuals who've been a part of this effort to make this happen. We thank you, and we are looking forward to the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Devin. Well, Lance, anything else we needed to say before we open it for questions? I'd be happy to answer any questions or fail to answer any questions y'all might have. I want to thank the staff here at the Grand Village of the Natchez Indians who do a wonderful job here, and the staff who came down from Jackson with me. Archives and history staff are the best, and I won't introduce them individually because I have already subjected you to so many introductions today. Kathleen.
Could you tell us a little bit about your timeline for moving forward with the project at the Grand Village?
Yes, thank you. Good question. The funding from the legislature, which will not be the total, that will not be the only source of funding for the project, but it becomes available in July. We have already initiated the process of working through the state process for selection of an architect and exhibit team. So we'll be working through that as quickly as we can and get them on board, maybe by the fall, Robert. Is that realistic? And then you'll see us down here a lot more talking with those of you who have close connections to this site. We'll be in very close engagement with our Native American partners. And, you know, I hope within a year or so, we'll have both an architectural design and exhibit plans, and we'll be looking at a ribbon cutting. From there, I don't know, a couple of years, as fast as we can build it, but we're moving forward as quickly as we can. Yes, sir.
First, I want to commend you and Devin for mentioning Jefferson Military College. As a graduate of that fine institution, I want to thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, Mike.
That it's a very important history, story of the history of Natchez. So I want to commend you and your staff and the mayor, Devin, and everybody here. Lance, and Kathleen, my boss.
Thank you so much. Jefferson College is a fascinating place, and one of the things that's interesting about that place is the history of the school itself, and we will certainly be telling that as a part of our look at the broader history. So thank you very much for being here and for those kind words. Anyone else? Any other compliments? Valencia, you can always count on Valencia for a compliment.
I would like to say thank you, Katie. Katie's one of the most visionary people I've ever worked with, and her staff.
I was joking, Valencia.
No, I didn't plan to do that. I was looking for more questions or comments. But it was a privilege to serve on the Board of Archives and History with Katie and her staff. Robert is here, Michael is here. I don't see anyone else, I think.
Justin,
and the new PR.
Lauren,
Lauren.
back in the back.
But I've never been on the board. I've served on many boards in my life. But this is the most cohesive, visionary board that I've ever served on. And passionate. And I remember saying that when I retired from the department to run for office here locally in Natchez. But it was a privilege to serve those years with them. And I think everybody here, 99.9999% of people know the person I replaced was nothing more than another visionary in this area. So thank you, Katie, for what you're doing in your department.
Thank you so much, Valencia. Y'all know Valencia is a dynamo. We were sorry to lose her from our board, but having her on the Board of Aldermen in Natchez, that's great too. And she's a wonderful supporter and leader.
I want to thank Jim Barnett.
Yes.
Jim and I traveled together to those board meetings. And I was a history lover since childhood, and I learned more and more about history with Jim on our travels together. So thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Any questions from the media? All right, I think we're done. Thank y'all so much. Really appreciate you being here today. We'll be in touch.
Right.